Start with why isn't just an idea. It's a line that separates those who drift through life from those who move with direction. Most people wake up reacting to the world. They follow routines they never question, chase goals they never defined, and live lives that look acceptable on the outside but feel empty within. But a high-value woman operates differently. She doesn't start with what she needs to do. She starts with why it matters. When your why is unclear, everything feels heavy. Discipline becomes difficult. Motivation fades quickly. You hesitate, overthink, and constantly seek approval. But when your why is strong, something shifts. Decisions become easier. Focus sharpens. You stop asking for permission because your purpose becomes your authority. You no longer need the world to tell you who you are. You already know. The truth is, the strongest women are not the ones with the loudest voices. They are the ones with the clearest direction. They don't waste time proving themselves to people who don't understand them. They don't chase attention. They don't bend to fit expectations. Instead, they align their actions with something deeper, something meaningful. That meaning becomes their fuel on the days when motivation disappears. Starting with why means asking yourself the hard questions. Why do you want success? Why do you want that lifestyle? Why do you want to grow? If your answers are rooted in comparison, validation, or fear, you will always feel unstable. But when your answers come from purpose, self-respect, and vision, you become unstoppable. Because now, you're not just moving, you're moving with intention. A high-value woman doesn't wait for clarity to magically appear. She creates it. She reflects, she questions, she defines. And once she finds her why, she protects it. She doesn't allow distractions to pull her away. She doesn't allow temporary emotions to override long-term purpose. She stays grounded. Even when things get uncertain, there will be moments when things don't go as planned. There will be delays, failures, and doubts. But when you start with why, those moments don't break you. They build you. Because your reason is bigger than your excuses. Your purpose is stronger than your fear. And your vision is louder than the noise around you. Most people are waiting to feel ready. But readiness doesn't come first. Clarity does. When you know why you're doing something, you don't need perfect conditions. You don't need constant motivation. You don't need approval. You move anyway. You act anyway. You grow anyway. This is what makes the difference. Not talent, not luck, not even opportunity. It's the ability to anchor yourself in a reason that doesn't shake when life does. Because when everything else becomes uncertain, your why remains stable. And that stability becomes your strength. So before you chase goals, before you build habits, before you try to become someone new, pause and define your reason. Not for the world, not for validation, but for yourself. Because once your why is clear, everything else begins to align. Clarity over noise is the quiet power most people overlook. We live in a world that never stops talking. Opinions, expectations, trends, and endless comparisons. Everyone has something to say about how you should live, what you should chase, and who you should become. And if you're not careful, you start absorbing all of it. You begin to confuse external noise with internal truth. That's where most people lose themselves. A high-value woman understands something different. She knows that not every voice deserves her attention. She doesn't react to everything she hears. She doesn't chase every opportunity that looks good on the surface. Instead, she filters. She pauses. She asks herself one question: does this align with who I am and where I'm going? If the answer is no, she lets it go, without guilt, without explanation. The problem with noise is that it creates pressure. It makes you feel like you're always behind, like you're missing out, like you need to do more just to keep up. But clarity removes that pressure. Clarity reminds you that not everything is meant for you. Just because something is popular doesn't mean it's purposeful. Just because others are doing it doesn't mean you should follow. When you lack clarity, you become reactive. You jump from one thing to another. You start projects you don't finish. You chase goals that don't fulfill you. And deep down, you feel disconnected because you're living based on what the world is telling you, not what you truly believe. But when you have clarity, everything changes. You become intentional. You move with direction. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. Clarity requires silence. It requires moments where you step away from the noise and listen to yourself. Not the version of you shaped by expectations, but the real version. The one that knows what feels right and what doesn't. This isn't easy. Because silence forces you to face truth, and truth is uncomfortable. But it's also necessary. A high-value woman doesn't fear that discomfort. She embraces it. She takes time to understand her values, her priorities, and her boundaries. And once she defines them, she protects them. She doesn't allow temporary trends to distract her from long-term vision. She doesn't let opinions shake her confidence, because she knows who she is, and that clarity becomes her foundation. There will always be noise. There will always be people who doubt you, question you, or try to redirect you. But their voices only have power if you give it to them. The moment you become clear about your path, those voices fade into the background. They no longer control your decisions. They no longer create confusion. Clarity also means accepting that you can't do everything. You can't be everything to everyone. And that's not a weakness, it's strength. Because when you focus on what truly matters, you give it your full energy. You go deeper instead of wider. You build something meaningful instead of something temporary. Most people are overwhelmed not because they have too much to do, but because they're trying to do too many things that don't matter. Clarity simplifies everything. It cuts through the distractions. It gives you direction when everything feels chaotic. So instead of trying to keep up with the world, slow down and reconnect with yourself. Define what matters, decide what doesn't, and have the courage to ignore anything that doesn't align. Because the more clarity you have, the less noise can control you. Consistency builds identity is the truth most people try to avoid because it sounds simple, but it demands discipline. Everyone wants confidence. Everyone wants to feel powerful, respected, and in control of their life. But very few are willing to do the small, repetitive actions that actually create that identity. A high-value woman understands that who she becomes is not built in big moments. It's built in the quiet, daily choices no one else sees. Most people rely on motivation. They act when they feel inspired, when the mood is right, when everything feels easy. But feelings are unstable. They change with circumstances, with emotions, with energy levels. If you build your life on motivation, you build it on something that disappears the moment things get hard. That's why so many people start strong and then slowly fade away. Consistency works differently. It doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you decide. It's showing up when it's inconvenient. It's doing the work when no one is watching. It's keeping promises to yourself, even when breaking them would be easier. And every time you follow through, you send a message to yourself, I am someone who does what I say. That message matters more than anything. Because identity is not what you say about yourself, it's what your actions prove repeatedly. You don't become confident by thinking about confidence. You become confident by acting in alignment with it, again and again, until it becomes natural. You don't become disciplined by wishing for it. You become disciplined by choosing it daily, especially when you don't feel like it. A high-value woman doesn't wait to feel ready. She understands that readiness is created through action. She doesn't need perfect conditions. She creates momentum by showing up imperfectly but consistently. And over time, those small actions compound. They build habits. Those habits shape behavior. And that behavior becomes identity. There will be days when you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated. Days when progress feels slow. Days when it seems like nothing is changing. This is where most people quit. They look for immediate results, and when they don't see them, they lose belief. But consistency is not about instant rewards. It's about long-term transformation. The real power of consistency is invisible at first. It happens beneath the surface. It's the gradual shift in how you think, how you act, and how you see yourself. And one day, without realizing it, you become the person you were trying to be. Not because of one big decision, but because of hundreds of small ones. Consistency also builds self-trust. And self-trust is everything. When you trust yourself, you stop second-guessing. You stop doubting your ability to handle challenges. You stop relying on others to validate your choices because you've proven through your actions that you can depend on yourself. Most people are trying to change their lives overnight. But real change doesn't happen that way. It happens slowly, quietly, and consistently. It's built in routines, in habits, in daily discipline. It's built when you choose progress over perfection, action over excuses, and commitment over comfort. So if you want to change who you are, don't focus on big goals alone. Focus on small actions repeated daily, because in the end, it's not what you do once that defines you. It's what you do consistently. Self-respect sets the standard, is the foundation everything else is built on. Without it, you will constantly look outside yourself for direction, seeking approval, tolerating less than you deserve, and adjusting who you are just to be accepted. But a high-value woman understands something most people learn too late. The way you treat yourself teaches the world how to treat you. Self-respect is not loud. It doesn't need attention or validation. It's quiet, firm, and unshakable. It shows up in the decisions you make when no one is watching. It's in what you allow, what you walk away from, and what you refuse to tolerate. It's not about proving your worth. It's about knowing it so deeply that you don't need to prove anything at all. Most people think respect comes from others. They try to earn it by pleasing, by overgiving, by staying silent when they should speak. But that approach always backfires. Because when you abandon your own standards to gain acceptance, you lose the very thing you were trying to protect, your value. And once you lose that internally, no external validation can replace it. A high-value woman sets her standards from within. She decides what she deserves, not based on opinions, not based on fear, but based on self-awareness. She knows her boundaries, she knows her limits. And most importantly, she honors them. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means disappointing others. Because here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something that disrespects you, you say no to yourself. And over time, those small compromises add up. They weaken your confidence, they blur your identity, they make you question your own worth. But when you choose self-respect, even in small moments, you rebuild that strength. You remind yourself that you matter. Self-respect also requires courage. The courage to walk away from situations that no longer serve you. The courage to say no without explaining yourself. The courage to stand alone if necessary. This is not easy. It often feels uncomfortable in the beginning. But discomfort is temporary. Self-betrayal lasts much longer. A high-value woman doesn't chase people who don't value her. She doesn't stay where she is tolerated instead of appreciated. She doesn't shrink herself to make others comfortable. Because she understands that respect is not something you beg for, it's something you embody. And once you embody it, the right people recognize it naturally. There will be moments when you're tested. Moments when it would be easier to stay quiet, to accept less, to avoid conflict. But those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments where you either reinforce your standards or weaken them. And every choice you make sends a message to yourself about what you believe you deserve. Self-respect is also about discipline. It's about keeping promises to yourself. It's about choosing growth over comfort, even when no one else is holding you accountable. Because when you respect yourself, you don't need external pressure. You hold your own standard. In the end, self-respect is not about being perfect. It's about being aligned. It's about living in a way that reflects your values, your worth, and your truth. And once you set that standard, everything changes. The way you think, the way you act, the way others respond to you, it all rises to meet the level you've chosen for yourself. Growth requires discomfort is a truth most people understand intellectually, but avoid in practice. Everyone wants to evolve. Everyone wants success, confidence, and a better life. But very few are willing to step into the discomfort that growth demands. A high-value woman doesn't just accept discomfort. She uses it as a signal that she's moving in the right direction. Comfort feels safe. It's familiar, predictable, and easy. But comfort has a hidden cost. It keeps you exactly where you are. When you stay in what's comfortable, you repeat the same patterns, make the same choices, and get the same results. There is no expansion in comfort, no transformation. Just stagnation disguised as stability. Discomfort, on the other hand, is where change begins. It shows up when you try something new, when you challenge your limits, when you step into uncertainty without guarantees. It feels like fear, doubt, and resistance. And because of that, most people run from it. They interpret discomfort as a sign to stop, to retreat, to stay safe. But a high-value woman sees it differently. She understands that discomfort is not the enemy. It's the process. It's the space where strength is built, where confidence is earned, and where identity shifts. She doesn't wait until things feel easy. She moves forward even when it feels uncomfortable, because she knows that ease comes after effort, not before. There will be moments when growth feels overwhelming, moments when you question yourself, when you feel unprepared, when you wonder if you're capable. That's normal. That's part of the process. Because growth stretches you beyond your current version. It forces you to confront your fears, your limitations, and your excuses. Most people avoid those moments. They choose comfort over progress. They stay in situations that no longer serve them because leaving feels uncertain. They silence their potential because expressing it feels risky. And over time, that avoidance becomes regret. A high-value woman refuses to live that way. She leans into discomfort with intention. She understands that every time she chooses growth over comfort, she expands her capacity. She becomes stronger, more resilient, more confident. Not because it was easy, but because she did it anyway. Discomfort also builds clarity. It reveals what you're capable of. It shows you where you need to improve. It forces you to adapt, to learn, to evolve. And in that process, you discover parts of yourself you didn't even know existed. But here's the key. Discomfort must be chosen, not forced. It's not about suffering for the sake of it. It's about stepping into challenges that align with your growth. It's about pushing yourself in ways that move you forward, not break you down. There is a difference between productive discomfort and unnecessary struggle. And a high-value woman knows how to recognize it. She doesn't complain about the difficulty. She doesn't wait for perfect conditions. She prepares, she acts, and she adapts. And with every step, she becomes more comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's where real confidence comes from, not from avoiding challenges, but from facing them repeatedly. In the end, growth is not supposed to feel easy. It's supposed to challenge you, stretch you, and transform you. And the more you embrace that, the less fear controls you. Because you realize that discomfort is temporary, but the person you become through it is permanent. She leads without permission is a mindset that separates those who wait from those who move. Most people are conditioned to seek approval before they act. They wait to be chosen, to be recognized, to be told they are ready. They look for signals from the outside world to validate what they already feel inside. But a high-value woman understands something powerful. If you keep waiting for permission, you will spend your life standing still. Leadership doesn't begin with a title. It doesn't come from status, position, or recognition. It begins with a decision. The decision to take responsibility for your life. The decision to act on your vision even when no one else sees it yet. The decision to trust yourself before the world gives you a reason to. A high-value woman doesn't wait for the perfect moment. She doesn't wait for confidence to magically appear. She doesn't wait for someone to open the door. She builds her own path and walks it with certainty, even if she has to walk it alone in the beginning. Because she knows that waiting often becomes an excuse. And excuses are the fastest way to stay stuck. There will always be reasons to hesitate. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of getting it wrong. These fears are real, and they don't disappear overnight. But she doesn't let them control her. She feels them and moves anyway. Because she understands that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the ability to act in spite of it. When you lead without permission, you stop asking questions like, what will people think? And start asking, what do I believe? You shift your focus from external approval to internal alignment. And that shift changes everything. Because now, your decisions are no longer based on fear, they're based on purpose. A high-value woman also understands that leadership is not about controlling others. It's about setting an example. It's about showing through action what is possible. She leads herself first, her thoughts, her habits, her standards. And through that self-leadership, she naturally influences those around her. There will be moments when people don't understand you. Moments when they question your choices, doubt your direction, or underestimate your vision. That's part of the process. Because when you stop waiting for permission, you step outside the expectations of others. And not everyone will be comfortable with that. But she doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She doesn't lower her standards to fit in. She stays aligned with her path, even when it feels uncertain. Because she knows that true leadership requires independence. The ability to stand firm in your decisions without constant reassurance. Leading without permission also means taking ownership. You don't blame circumstances, you don't wait for opportunities, you create them. You don't rely on others to fix your life, you build it yourself. And that level of ownership is what creates real power. Most people are waiting for a sign, waiting for someone to tell them they're ready. But the truth is, readiness is a myth. You become ready by starting, by taking action, by learning as you go. And every step you take builds the confidence you were waiting for. In the end, the difference is simple. Some people wait to be chosen, others choose themselves. And the moment you choose yourself, you stop living by default and start leading by design.